Ahlan wa sahlan. Welcome to the Oriental Café, a podcast where we will sit at the same table to explore the fascinating worlds of Egyptian dance, personal empowerment, and halas, life. I'm your host, Joana Saahirah, world-renowned Oriental dancer, teacher, choreographer, and author, the creator of the pioneering Joana Saahirah's World and Joana Saahirah's Online Dance School. I will meet you at the Oriental Café every 2 weeks, alone or with a guest, sharing intimate yet universal conversations. In agreement or disagreement, we will create bridges and inspire each other, because the world is only one, and so is our human soul. Ready to fall in love? Yalla bina!
I'm ready.
Welcome, Perla, to a new episode of the Oriental Café. This is the name of my new podcast. It's very exciting to have you as a guest. As I've told you when we met previously to talk about this episode, you've been on my mind for a long time. I've always found you a very original, very brave, very interesting, aesthetically beautiful and intelligent dancer. And above all, I felt your heart. I felt the heart you put into things. And for me, this is not only the sign of an artist, but it's the sign of a person that I want to have around. So
thank you.
I'm being very honest, okay? This is really... So when I thought about a podcast and when I was thinking about whom do I want to bring, immediately you were on my list without you even dreaming about it. So welcome to the Oriental Café podcast. And I would like to start with allowing you to introduce yourself in your own words. How do you see yourself as an artist, as a teacher, as a person? How would you introduce yourself?
Now, let me think. Allora, I am Perla Elias Nemer. I'm a dancer from a long time, choreographer, Oriental dance, of course, and I am also a researcher. And one of my main interests is, of course, music, modern music, and classical music. And of course, I love teaching, and it's difficult to introduce myself because I am a very curious person. So I have a lot of interest, and of course, I have to choose from which one we have to talk about. But yes, that's what I am.
Multidimensional artist and multidimensional curious creature. Would you accept this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am. And that's a problem. That's a problem because it's not easy to be labeled. No, you have to have a label.
Yes. Actually, we talked about that in our previous meeting, which is the need the world has to label people and to label artists, also so that the world can sell you and you can sell your work. It's hard when you don't put a label on yourself, but when you are bigger than a label, you resist putting that label on yourself, and you resist allowing people to put that label. So I am many things. Don't put me in one box. Don't limit me, because the label is limiting, right? Whenever someone calls you, no, Perla, she's a dancer. No, she's not a dancer. She's a, let me think, researcher. No, they are limiting you. They're trying to put you in a box they can deal with. So when you are touching so many boxes at the same time, how do they call you? How do they deal with you? It's difficult, especially for a woman,
It's complexity, it is our brains are not wired to get involved with complexity, but every people has their own complexity. And even, for example, as a dancer, Perla is the one that do Reda. Perla is the one that do Dakke, is the one that do Ottoman. And I mean, we can do a lot of things, and we can be interested for a long time with one subject and then go to another. So but we have to understand that, of course, this happen to us also that in order to know something, we have to do a delimitation of it. So when you know a person, you have to put it on a label, maybe momentarily, in order to understand what is this person. But the problem is, as you're saying, if you want to sell, oh, che parola, sell your work, you have to label yourself. And that's its limitation. And persons like you, that you're a writer, you've been also a beautiful dancer, and you do a lot of things. Of course, it is difficult. The people doesn't understand it, but what I like is that the people that come to me is because they just, they are ahead of this. So it is the person Joana or the person Perla that has these features and has these different kind of things they do. So it's okay.
Now I'm going to play the advocate's devil, and I'm going to sort back to a conversation I had with a friend. She's not a dancer. She's an astrologer and many other things. So for so many years, I told her, you have to define yourself. If you want to sell your art, your products, your services, you have to define yourself. The question is, how do you define yourself without limiting yourself? How do you put a label on yourself without limiting, castrating, and minimizing what you do? And actually, that is a process that I had to go through while I launched my school, for instance, in my platform, because my coach in business asked me, what is it exactly that you do? Because if you don't know, your students, your clients, the ones who hire you for a performance, for a workshop, for a course, they don't know. If you don't know, they will not know. So this is a problem. And I struggled with it for a long time. And I told her, but do I have to define myself? I'm an artist. I'm a creator. I do so many things at the same time. Do I have to? And she told me, yes, you do. And I discovered something surprising, perhaps, is that when you make the effort to define yourself, you don't allow others to define you. That's a different thing, okay? You define yourself and you try to find a statement that sums up the creative creature that you actually are. And that effort of synthesizing, of bringing to a sentence or a paragraph everything you believe you do is very powerful. Because very often we artists, we hide behind the flag of freedom. I am freedom. Don't define me. I am free. I am free. I do this. I do that. So we run away from defining and claiming it exactly. This is who I am, and this is what I do. Take it or leave it. And we run away from it without noticing. So what I found out about this question of labels is that it is so powerful when you do the work of labeling yourself and you say, you know what? Okay, I do many things, but in a paragraph or in a phrase, this is exactly what I do. And that statement, and when you're not afraid to say it out loud and to write it and to say it to people, when you're not hiding behind this idea of I'm free, I'm many things, I am nothing, I'm everything, the universe, when you're not hiding behind this, there is an incredible clarity. I discovered that, and I resisted that for years. Okay, years. I said, don't ask me about it. So it is interesting to see someone that touches different fields. I was checking your work. I was very pleased to know you are such a beautiful musician. I knew you were a musician, but I thought, okay, maybe she plays the tambourine. That's it. Nothing against the tambourine, But I thought, maybe you learn tabla or something. But when I studied your curriculum to prepare for the podcast, I saw, okay, I feel you're primarily a musician, and all those other passions are pouring from that love for the music. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is the perception I got from.
Well, I'm a student. I'm a cello student. So I don't consider myself a musician, but of course I have to write the arrangements for my work, and of course I have to be all the time with music. This will be my first interest, but I am also a researcher in sociology. Of course, the music and the dance part of sociology of art and religion also, because if you have to talk about human being and dance, you have to talk about religion. So I don't know. I think I can call myself an Awalim, an Almi. No, this is what I am, and this is what I want to teach to dancers, to be music and to do music. And I'm trained in bel canto and these things. And this is what I like, the whole thing, not just dancing. For me, it's all.
Here's a question that was not on my plans. It was not on the list, but here's a question that came up, which is, if we talk about Egyptian dance, Egyptian Oriental dance, Egyptian folkloric dance, Lebanese dance, other kinds of dances from the Middle East, from North Africa, other kinds of folklore, we are also talking about, as you mentioned, sociology. We're talking about history. We're talking about politics. We're talking about economy. We're talking about religion. So let me touch a sensitive point, because I'm very curious to know how you see this. Mm-hmm. What is the connection, the relationship between Egyptian Oriental dance, what people commonly erroneously call belly dance, and I'm going to do this, with religion? And why is it so complicated, especially in Egypt, in Middle Eastern countries, in countries where Muslim religion is the power, is the majority, is what rules? What is the connection between this dance and religion, and why there seems to be such a conflict between the two? What do you think?
Oh my God! Now listen. Of course, I work in the Middle Eastern, in Lebanon, in Egypt, and in Morocco. But my field work is not in those places, so I cannot tell you exactly about this relationship. But what I can tell you is something about the Western practitioners of this dance. And in this subject, we don't have to think about religion. We have to change the word. We have to say spirituality. So I changed completely your question in order to talk about the things I can know. So my fieldwork is in Italy, because my research is in Italy with Italians, and in this moment. And what I can tell you is that in a religious context, dance like Sufi, for example, you have your gathering. And the goal of your gathering is going to be the wacht, is going to be the self-annihilation, a kind. I'm very synthetic in this. You're going to go to Allah, a self-annihilation, a possession, if you want to think about it, in order to feel yourself a part of God, a part of the nature. When you're talking about a non-religious contest, for example, a concert, we have to talk about Tarab, and we have to talk about spirituality. And this is the kind of relationship of a sociologist will be interested, because it's the relationship of the performer with the audience. The audience, the Samia, the known audience of the music. Of course, Tarab is a concept much more related to music than dancing. But the goal will be to feel together, to share the feeling, to make the music inside of you, and inside of all the listeners. So that will be the relationship. That will be a kind of spiritual experience, and that is what Italians, for example, they are looking for. They're looking for a relationship with the audience. But as you know, when you're in a Western country, you don't have a Samia. I mean, the audience that knows the words or the music. You have a very different kind of audience. So when you ask them, for example, what is your work's experience in dancing, they're going to tell you the fact that the people doesn't understand me. So that means that they are looking to spread, to share a moment of a spiritual and deep moment with music and dancing, and sometimes it's not like that. I'm sorry if I just changed your
No, I'm following
your
you.
question,
I'm
because
following
I
you.
know Oriental countries, and what part of my family is Lebanese, but it's not my field work, so I cannot really tell you
No,
about
of
it.
course, always comment on something that you know about. Obviously, some dancers have worked in Arab countries. I've spent a huge part of my adult life in Egypt, as you may know. So I come
know.
from that background. And of course, there are two very interesting points here that I'm going to extract from what you just shared. One of them is the fact that Egyptian audiences in specific, and I mean Egyptian, not Arab audiences, because I performed in Lebanon. My first contract was in Beirut. I was 6 months in Beirut, and then I literally had to run away. Long story. We're not going to go there. We're not going to go there.
Stories.
I have loads of stories. I performed in Oman for Sultan Qaboos, another real story, and I was in jail at the time, another real story. We're not going to get into that. But my real experience was in Egypt. And of course, you cannot compare Egyptian audiences with the audiences of any place in the world. And once I started to go out of Egypt and perform in festivals, China and Japan and Spain and New Zealand and whatever, the Western world, I felt a big shock. Not only because I did not have my musicians with me, so I got spoiled. I got used to having this body of sound and human support on my back, and suddenly I'm alone in a stage. It's very, very violent. Yeah. And also because the audiences are very specific. Egyptian audiences are the best audiences for Egyptian dance. And this I say for, absolutely sure, forever. This is one thing. Another thing is, although Western audiences are not Egyptian, from my own experience as a performer also, there are ways of creating that spiritual connection. It is harder, I agree. They do not understand what you're doing, I agree. Even if they're very educated, they don't know the lyrics, they don't know the authors you are dancing, the composers, the singers. They don't know the language. It's not a familiar language. So it's always going to be harder to pull a Western audience into your space as a performer. Always harder, but it is possible. Yes, it is absolutely possible. I hear sometimes dancers complaining that Western audiences are impossible in the sense that, yeah, they clap, but they don't get it. I'm always suspicious because I think that your responsibility as a performer is to get them. It's not their job to like you. It's not their job to understand you. They're coming to see a show, probably even paying a ticket to see you. It's your job to bring them to you and create that unity that can be a spiritual unity. But another point that came to my mind while you were talking was the question of Tarab, of course, but also going back to the word religion.
Yes.
And what it really means. So what I usually tell my students, especially beginners who are starting to understand what the hell is this thing called Egyptian dance, I tell them, okay, let's go to the word religion. What does it mean? And it comes from the Latin religare. Okay.
Religare, of course.
What does it mean? To put together. Yeah. Put together what?
Society.
Put together many things. That is up for interpretation. Put together what? I ask, the dancers, what do you think? Some tell me what you told me, society. Some tell me, put together different pieces of my heart. Put together soul and body. Put together mind and body.
create connection. Maybe the can be create connections. So it depends on what kind of mind, on what lens are you using for it. If you're a sociologist, you're going to be interested in the social function of art. If you're an anthropologist, you're going to be interested in the relationship of the context of the audience and the performer and the history of the performer. If you are an artist, you're going to be interested in to share your feelings and your emotions and your point of view. No, so it's very difficult, but it's so interesting, this subject.
And also, you know, I do think that it comes down to the experience of the teacher. So I'm speaking about in the condition of a teacher, in the condition of a performer. How have I experienced this dance, right? And coming from there, I will teach whoever is going to study with me. So my relationship with Egyptian dance was always a soulful relationship. I remember that one of the first things that made me hooked, and I mean really hooked, obsessed, this is it, I didn't even think about it, was that I found a language where my soul could express itself.
I can tell you something about this as you are talking. When you ask Italians which movements are the best that they love most, of course there is different in North Italy, Central Italy, South of Italy. But for example, a lot of people in the center of Italy, they will love shimmy. Why? They tell you that shimmy is a way of reverberating to have an echo of your soul. This is what they're telling you. For example, for a hip drop movement or the direct movements, the northern Italy, they're going to tell you it is like a game, a ludic thing. Is a kind of something that you, if you get it, if it is sharp, if it is with the music, it will give a efficiency, a satisfaction. So, but where you're telling about expression of your soul, well, shimmy can be, because you can express fear, you can express emotion, you can express a lot of things with Oriental dance, and we are not touching the soft movements that are also giving a lot. So I am absolutely d'accordo.
It's also, you know, coming back to something that you touched, which is the concept of Tarab. So if there is an experience of Tarab, and by Tarab we can mean ecstatic transcendence, anything that takes you out of your ego, anything that transports you, that allows for a meditation experience of some sort. So in the Arab world, we use the word Tarab applied to music, applied to dance, applied to meditation, applied to prayer also. So it is not just around music. But what I have felt, and something that I always inquire dances about and always inspire my students, hopefully, to do, is to understand that the music itself, Egyptian dance comes from Egyptian music. We don't dance in silence. We can, but usually it is associated with music. And Egyptian music is crafted, especially the classical music, is crafted to have an effect on the listener. Tarab effect. Allah, I am flying. Allah, I am feeling it.
Think about the repetition, the fact that there's a lot of repetition of Teslim, you know, in Ottoman music, for example. Think about the way, as you're saying, the way it's crafted. The modal music is crafted in joint degrees, no, in joint. The notes are very close together. Is the taste of I'm talking about, you know, Ottoman, but also Oriental and some part of Asia and whatever. And these joint degrees are not like classical music in the Western, that we have these jumps, no, from do to la, whatever. And there is a path when you learn Oriental music. There is a path that is called segir, that is the way that mode, that scale, no, that makam is going to take. But it's like a kind of imagine that you are in the woods, and there is a kind of a path that you can go. But of course, you can look to your right, you can look to your left, and you have another scale very near, and then you go there, and the tone and the modulation and all these things together are the kind of taste. For example, sociologists like Max Weber did the sociology of music book, and he said that the music of each country is different, because there is a social context and a political context, and also a taste to express for their audiences. So the question will be why this Oriental music is getting so inside of a view that I think you were born in Portugal, or Italians, or Americans, or Russians. What it is about this music, what is touching inside, that is so deep.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Also, in terms of the music, allowing for an ecstatic experience, allowing for Tarab, allowing for transcendence, allowing for a reconnection to your soul. And of course, again, this goes back to our own experience. Other dancers may tell you that's absolute nonsense. I don't know what you're speaking about. And that's fine, because we all experience music with different levels of sensibility, different ears, different backgrounds, different education, different characters, hormonal systems, whatever. So we don't listen the same. We listen the same, but we are not listening the same thing. And Egyptian music, Oriental music in general, I would say, is not innocent in the way that it's really hypnotizing, enchanting, and allowing for us as human beings to experience something that we crave. And that question that you just shared with us, what is it that makes this music so alluring for Egyptians as much as for Chinese or for Spanish people or for Italians? Or what is in this that attracts and feeds something in us that is so foreign, but at the same time so familiar?
It's the detail. Maybe I was thinking about, maybe it's the detail, because as it is constructed, Oriental music, modal music is, as I told you, is joint degree, so it is very detailed, and it is like exploring every possibility of a phrase, for example. And this is like is the way maybe the Ottomans, the classical music Ottomans, they saw, because what they tell you, music is for meditation, is for to go inside your brain and touch a lot of little subjects together. And that's so different of our Western music, even if it is different in every country.
In Egypt, as you may know, there is a conflict, but still a relationship between what is music and what is, for instance, prayer. The call for the prayer that the muezzin does from the minaret. If you observe Kulthum, for instance, and this is something that I always teach my students when I teach Kulthum, before you learn to dance, you have to learn to listen. There is no way you are going to be an exceptional dancer if you are not an exceptional listener. It all starts here in the ear. Yeah. So when you listen to Kulthum, for instance, you can tell she had a training in Quranic recitation from an early age. At some point, you cannot distinguish, is she singing? Is she reciting? Right. Is she praying? Is she calling people for prayer? And I know this is haram, yani. What I'm telling you
Well,
now.
there are specific makams for prayer, no? The specific genes and the specific things from prayer. But I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes, because we are not Muslim, so we don't have the sensibility of what is talking haram. But we have an idea of it. So, with all
It's
due
haram,
respect, of course.
haram in the sense of Muslim kanun, comparing Kulthum or any other singer to the prayer or to anything related to the Quran is considered forbidden, yani haram, aib, not appropriate. But of course, I have a Western ear and I am a Western person, so I don't have the filter of being a Muslim or even being a Christian. I find every religion, interesting. I don't follow any of it, but I find them interesting, like phenomenon, like a phenomenon interesting. Yeah. So I don't have that filter or that limitation. Let's not talk about this because this is haram. No, I'm telling you what I feel. That's when you hear Kulthum singing, I am confused. I think I am listening to my favorite muezzin. And this is another hint from my perspective that music, Egyptian music in specific, has a specific spiritual agenda in it, even if it's not conscious, even if the composers who compose are not thinking about it. They're just coming from a long tradition where the music was meant to touch your soul and to awaken your soul.
It is. So, it is, but not just Egyptian music. It's not. It's like dancing. What I think about is the music is a social construct, and it reflects, of course, each country will be authentic in their dance, in their sounds, in the register, in the timbre of the instruments. But in, for example, if you take a very well-known composer like Mohammed Abdel Wahab or Sayed Darwish, for example, of course, these people, in order to be great composers, they will study the Ottoman system. That the Ottoman system, of course, is and is a lot of nations together. So you have Balkans, you have Asian, you have Middle Eastern, and you have a composition. So for me, dancing is the same. There is not just the kind of dance that you have in one nation, because nation is a concept that comes after, no? And is a feeling. If you go, for example, to Lebanon, Lebanon, you will find a bintel ballad very easily. The same demeanor, no, these gestures and the strongness and the dala thing, you're gonna find it. If you go to southern Italy, you're gonna find a bintel ballad. It's not Egyptian. Maybe the gestuality will be different, but you're going to have a kind of feeling of this. And if you put you put it in dance, for me, is this dance that we have, that we are witnessing a lot of progress, a lot of development, very, very interesting, that, Russia and Americans and Europe, and this dance is changing. Why it's changing? Because what this dance has a hardcore of ballady. No, that is, but can have a lot of influences and contaminations, and even the Raksharki that you can see it now, of course, has modern jazz, of course, has ballet, of course, even Reda used some things about the classical ballet. So the construction of music, it's like it's a big area of Mediterranean, and the construction of dance is, for me, it is like that. Of course, nobody can deny the authenticity and the mood, the taste of Oriental Egyptian dance. You will recognize is very characteristic.
It's very specific and very unique. That will take us to what fascinates you the most in Egyptian Oriental? I'm focusing in Egyptian Oriental. Why? Because
Okay.
this is my
Yes.
area. And our podcast is, again, labeled. Here we go to the labels. It's about authentic Egyptian dance, personal empowerment, and life. So I will always come from Egypt and go back to Egypt. This is another very long story. And although I have studied other dance styles, I have chosen to go as deep as I can until I die into one specific thing where I know I can excel. So I'm always going back to the reference of Egyptian dance for that reason. But of course, you may refer Lebanese dance or you may refer Moroccan dance. There are so many subjects we could touch. Now, specifically Egyptian Oriental, what people call belly dance. Again, I'm using this term because a lot of our listeners will know the dance by that name. What is it that makes it so fascinating, hypnotizing, and forbidden? And I'm speaking about the West. I'm not even speaking about Egypt because that's another story. I'm speaking about your experience, let's say in Italy, where you have this strong community of dancers, you're working with dancers, you're producing shows, you are rehearsing, you are contacting with people. So you have this clear feedback. What makes this specific dance so fascinating, hypnotizing, but also a little dangerous? You know, when people know what you do, they treat you like you are an alien, something dangerous, something a little bit naughty, you know, that you shouldn't be doing. It's weird. What do you think? What makes it so spicy?
Well, I think the first thing that coming to my mind is the relationship of dance and the body and the female body. Female body, it is difficult even now to express your femininity or to show your body. Just that. I mean, it is also the demeanor of Egyptian gestuality. The demeanor is very ambiguous, and just for that, it is very fun because you are impersonating, you know, your maybe your dance archetype, but you are saying you have 2 or 3 speeches inside of you while you are exposing, no, your, you know, doing this, no. This is very characteristic of Egyptian dancer, no, exposing the jugular, where you are saying, I am completely, I'm not violent. You can do whatever. At the same time, you're using a very strong and very straightforward language, you know, doing gestures. And then you come to the pacifying gestures, of course, exposing your, and then you are like playing with the characters with your breast, and then you are you going backwards, and you know exactly they are watching at your butt, no, and you are moving it. So this is not even for Westerners. I know you in your classes when the beginners start, it is not so easy to do it because we have, of course, we are Westerners, but you are in Lisbon. I am in Rome. Can you imagine Rome, Christianity? It is very strong, and the context. So I think this is very fun to play with this in between and betwixt. This is an anthropologist. They call it a kind of liminal space that we are creating while we are dancing, because we're entering in a kind of forbidden space, when in that space we can do whatever we want. And we are the master of that space. And everybody is looking at us. and we can have this ambiguous that's very Egyptian, so and that makes it very fun, and you are playing with your audience. Maybe you have a repetition of a movement, but then you have another repetition, but you're doing another movement, so you're looking for the surprise, the stupore, no? The people has to say, oh, she's going to do this. Oh, no, she didn't. She did different things. So you are in a kind of protected space that you cannot go to the bank and say, hey, can I do please this? No, you cannot do it, but you can do it in dancing. And that's very fun. And it is, healthy, very healthy. They change your identity. And in the research, that's what I found. The Italians tell you what is making this Oriental dance for you is changing my identity, giving me vitality. Of course, we are studying.
I was going to ask you, from
I'm
your
sorry.
experience, what is the biggest benefit that dancers are taking from this hypnotizing, weird, ambiguous limbo dance?
Aside vitality.
Vitality?
La vita inside that is just going out is vitality, and vitality, it is related to eros, no? Like is eros is not just sex, is life also. So in this kind of connection, and then they tell you, as I told you, identity. Can you imagine how it is strong and deep, this understanding and this dance practice in Italy, at least, that is changes your identity, because 92% of the people, they tell you, yes, I am different because I enter in my dance classes in a way, and then I go out after years of dancing, I feel a complete change, a transformation that is interesting for sociologists. And that also, the third thing, that it is self-empowerment. They feel power. They feel they can create the experience for others. So they feel power. So this is a dance that it must be practiced everywhere, because it's so important. These three things. And if you're asking, I'm a feminist. Yes, of course I am. But it's not about that. It's about the feeling you have, and this feeling is what you are dancing. The way to yourself.
Beautiful. That is taking me to another subject that I had to ask you, which is your project of the Awalim. Okay, so first of all, let's do a little introduction to our listeners, because a lot of them may not know what does Awalim mean. Who were the Awalim first, and then why did you feel it was interesting to revive, to bring back to life, not only the word, because a lot of dancers have used that word, Awalim, but you decided, from what I've seen, to bring back the concept of what the original Awalim used to do. They were troops, they were singing together, they were dancing together, performing. So they were learned women. That's what Alma means. It's an educated woman, a woman who knows a lot of crafts, who is well-rounded. That's Alma, yani the singular for Awalim. Why did you decide to bring the concept, not only the word, because bringing the word is easy, but the concept to the stage? And how is that experience of the new Awalim going, and what is teaching you?
Well, the idea of taking this word is because, this word Awalim has changed the meaning. First, it will mean the learned women, no? But then it will change, because it will be related to prostitution, to another things. But what I was looking for is to recreate an experience of the learned dancer. The experience, it means that you have to learn to sing in many languages, of course, in Arab, of course, in Turkish, in Greek, in Ladino, in Spanish, in Italian. I did it once. You have to learn to sing, to learn together, to do music together. So, because when you dance, of course, you have a communication, you have a relationship with others, no, with your peripheral vision, and when your group or whatever, or if you're a soloist. But when you're producing sounds, it is difficult. The voice is coming from inside your body, so it is important. What I see is that if I teach a choreography, and I say to the dancers, you have to sing, don't count, sing, cioè non cantare, conta, no? Non contare, canta. So don't count, sing. And if you're producing the sounds, you're gonna have a better memory in your body of your choreography, even if you're just singing nya, 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 like that. If you are singing while you're dancing, then you will have much more meaning of what you're doing. And because in the beginning they were not just dancers, there was like in Renaissance, no, is not a difference dancing, singing, saying poetry, doing conversation, no, whatever. So the first thing I have to teach, or sometimes I have teachers, singing teachers in Italy. We have bel canto technique, that is the best technique, that is so natural. And then if somebody had a study and a musical instrument, of course, have to be part of the orchestra. The orchestra has like 2 or 3 people that are musicians, but it is made with all the girls that play an instrument, even in a very not a professional way. We can write the arrangement, and they do it, because what I think is that there is a kind of barrier of wall between dancer and musician. So we are dancer, you are musician, and there is a kind of wall, and of course you have relationship with them, but there is a kind of wall. I don't like that. That's why I teach, and then I take my cello and I start to sing, and they dance and they change instruments. They do a lot of sagato, of course, because for me it's very important, also percussion and also the rec. And so we are like in the 7th year doing this thing. And what I find is that the experience of doing music together and dancing together, when we finish, we are like in paradise. We are happy. We take the things for to eat. We prepare the girls prepare things, and then we have a kind of hafla, repeating just one song. Sometimes I do also the transmission in my Facebook page live, because it is interesting to see what is happening with all these people, that it's changing and changing and smashing the wall about music and dance. So this is what I like. Of course, it is a niche. Of course, it is difficult. Of course, dancers are very afraid of singing. They say, "Oh, I don't know, I'm just a dancer." No, if you're doing Oriental dance, it's not the movement for the movement. We're so related to music. We are music. We have to be music ourselves. This is my thinking. And it works. But of course, you need time, because learning a musical instrument, to learn to sing and everything about another skill is difficult. And you became a multitasking dancer. So while you're singing, you're doing a lot of things, and that is not easy. But we're going, different people coming and going and taking their experience. And this is what I do.
I find it very interesting on 2 points. First of all, because the concept of the Awalim, I personally find it very entertaining, and I could see why that would work on stage. It's difficult to think why it wouldn't work, because actually it worked on stage. In Egypt, it was mostly inside people's homes. So we had at the time, 18th century, 19th century, even in the 20th century, we had this very strong separation between the Hawazi and the Awalim. So the Hawazi being more public, being more everywhere in the street, in the markets, and the Awalim, they used to dance in people's homes, in the harem, in the women's quarters. So there was this respectability, but you could also imagine why their work was so valued and why it's so entertaining. And it can still be entertaining today. That's one point. But the other point that I find interesting in this project is that you're really putting your students, your dancers, the people you're working with in an out of their comfort zone. And you are creating.
Oh, yes, of course, they hate me.
Absolutely. I'm sure they do. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but it is fun. For me, it's fun.
But as they hate you, they are also developing sides of themselves they would never develop. They would never do if they were just coming for a dance class. And I find that particularly important, that you are allowing your students to, I don't mean they're going to be the next Maria Callas, okay? But even if you don't feel you're a singer, even if you don't feel you are a poetry reciter, I personally find it very important to tap into these different challenges and see what you discover about yourself.
You're building, a community, a little community, a sense of a net, and people besides you that are singing the same thing that you're singing. And of course, there are people that sing better than the other. Of course, there are people that will be much more interested in one thing or another. But the important thing for me is they have to try. They have to try, and that they have to put themselves. Of course, is completely out of the comfort zone, and this is like making me different of other kind of works, because I'm just keep going with this training, the new Awalim project. And of course, in the reality that I calling you, okay, Perla, go to do Reda, go to do this. And I'm very, very focused in this thing. And of course, it's difficult to propose as a workshop, for example. Of course, you cannot do Zoom about it. You have to be with me in the same. I have to feel you. I have to have the smell of you. We have to be together, and this togetherness is, it is important to build the rapport and to build the different kind of self reflection. What are you and what are the others? And this togetherness is, for me, is the most important. But it is with the music. Art, I don't know. As you said, I don't know. Entertainment, that's for sure.
Yes. Also, something very important that while I was listening to you, it came to my mind through my Egyptian experience. So a lot of what I am and what I do comes through the Egyptian lens, because I went to Egypt very young, and I spent formative years there performing and living, and so a lot of who I am and what I see is Egyptian, crazily enough. And
Yes.
while I was listening to you talking about this training of the Awalim, another very important thing came to my mind, something that I learned from Egyptians, curiously, which is the ability to enjoy a craft, not having to be exceptional and perfect at it, just for the enjoyment, just for the learning, just
to
for
be a part. Do you remember the religio Latin radice? Is to legare, to be a part of something. But really, I mean, in a very, very, in a very strong and deep way. So that is an experience that you keep to yourself, and then you go Monday, you go to your work, but you are a different person, and
you're enjoying yourself. Westerners, and I'm generalizing, okay, but I'm a Westerner. I was born in the West, so a lot of my references come from the West. We have a hard time just enjoying ourselves. And what I see, for instance, in Egyptian dance, for instance, when I teach different styles, okay, dancers expect to excel at everything. Excel at Saidi, excel at Nubian, be the best in Bedouin, be the best in classical Egyptian, be the best in Baladi Awadi, be the best. And primarily, the focus should be on learning it and enjoying it. This is something that Egyptians do naturally. They have a propensity, inclination for enjoyment, which also makes them so specific and makes their dance so specific. It's this innate motivation and ability to enjoy themselves.
Yes, this is also Mexican. You know, I was born in Mexico, and this kind of being the togetherness, singing and dancing and fiesta and whatever, it is like Egyptians. It is everything. I mean, just singing it will. You have so much fun doing it. And it is different to a first world country where, as you were saying, it is difficult to enjoy yourself. And sometimes you have also they say you have to enjoy yourself. Of course, you cannot enjoy yourself, no, because it is a part. It is very, but this authentic way of being together is very Egyptian, and maybe it's characteristic. But I saw it also in Mexico, because I lived there until 20, so I know.
We have so much to cover, and we will not have time to cover it all. I told you before we started recording this podcast episode, and because I knew it would be so so interesting. But I have one thing I absolutely have to ask you on this first visit to my podcast. Hopefully not the last. I will surely bring you back, and we have so much more to talk about. But for now, I could not close the episode without talking about Mahmoud Reda and the Reda style. Yeah. Not because I identify you with that, okay? By the way, I don't. Maybe other people.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm proud.
I don't identify with that. The image I have of you, it's really very eclectic. I personally don't see you associated with a specific thing or a specific person. I don't. And I believe this is a good thing. I'm telling you this like it's a good thing.
But we have Reda inside you too. We have the DNA Reda inside. It is so deep. It is inside.
So let me ask you about this. How did you discover the Reda style created by Mahmoud Reda? For the ones who don't know him, he's considered, and justly so, the father of Egyptian folklore. He was a pioneer. He basically put Egyptian dance on the map. And of course, I'm talking about Egyptian folklore specifically, but it's still Egyptian dance. He brought Egyptian dance to the biggest stages of the world. They were sponsored by the government at the time. I don't want to go so deeply into it because that's not the focus of the episode, but his creation and his legacy and his style is very meaningful for a lot of us. I would like to know, what is the meaning of the Reda style for you? How did you discover it, and why it became such an important part of your dance style? I imagine your choreography style.
Yes, absolutely.
Why absolutely. And how?
Now, listen, after you study a lot of choreography of Maestro Reda, in some way, and this I'm sure that this happened to you also, you are like kind of anticipating sometimes what he's going to do next. Sometimes it's surprise, sometimes it's not. In this way, what my thoughts were like, this is like getting inside the brain of somebody, in this case Mahmoud Reda, that is showing you with the choreography all the possibilities that you have with that kind of quiet style. Because one of the most beautiful things about the Reda style is that it is quiet. It is different, very different. So, or if you want to express something like very deep or whatever, you have to do another kind of movement, and you have to detach a little for the Reda style. So how I started, I was lucky because I had in Italy, in Rome, we have the Saad Ismail, that he is an Egyptian, and very Egyptian, and is contagious, and he's a very master teacher, and he was my teacher. And then I had Nawal Ben Abdallah in Paris and in Morocco. So these two people, of course, they have a very, very strange relationship with Maestro Reda. So so we saw him in Italy every year, and then when I was in Paris, he came a lot to Paris. So I had a lot of time even to talk with him and to ask him things. I remember I asked him once, we were looking for some because he loved no electronics, whatever. We were looking for something new, and I was asking him, Maestro, how can I become a good choreographer? And he told me, okay, you have to do a lot of choreography. Then when you reach the 100th choreography, then maybe you're gonna become a good choreographer. And this was the answer. So I just followed that path. Why? Because when you're doing a lot that, and this is writing also, when you're doing a lot of choreography, you are getting know with yourself, with all the things, and with the imprinting. I have the very, very strong red imprinting. I had that imprinting, that way of thinking, that way of organizing my material. And then I have myself, that I am very music, so I pay attention to a crescendo, I pay attention to a diminuendo, I pay attention to a lot of things in the music. So for me, it's a kind of map, and it will work like that. Having this beautiful technique, and this is I mean, I had problems after to detach to the figures of Reda figures and try to do mine and to become myself. But this was just after I got after the 100 choreography. And this is the story. But if I do a choreography, of course, inside myself there is Reda, and there is showing the way, the organization, the right and left, the you know, the Apollinian, if you want, concept. Clear, has to be clear, because the audience has to understand it. It has to be balanced. It has to be gracious. It has to be elegant.
Sorry to interrupt you, because I'm afraid I will forget. Mahmoud is a very aesthetic eye. So I caught Mahmoud in his late years while I was performing in Egypt. I was also working with him. First I studied with him, then we started to work.
I know.
Choreograph and teach with him. So I caught him in his late years, and I choreographed in the room with him many times. Every week we were doing something, either for me or for him or for somebody else that we were helping. So, and he had a very aesthetic eye. And I'm going to tell you a story from him that is going to show you how he thought and how his work came to be, and how those lines had to be clear, clean, beautiful, understandable. You have to understand what you are seeing. You have to see it clearly.
You have to have a plan. You have to have a plan.
Yeah. One time he came to the studio and I was already there waiting for him, which was very rare because I worked at night. So of course I was always dying of sleepiness, and he always had to wait for me. But that day, for some reason, I arrived earlier, and he came very mad because people in the building were doing a lot of garbage, and the building was really filthy. His building, I'm talking about the studio.
The Casernil studio.
Yeah.
I know.
Particularly dirty. I don't know why. I don't remember. Maybe it was Eid after Ramadan. I'm not sure. But it was, in fact, very filthy. And he was nervous. And Mahmoud was not the kind of person to get nervous or mad. That was rare. Okay, so I say, Mahmoud, what's going on? I don't understand. People do so much garbage. You know what I'm going to do? You know what I'm going to do? I am gonna make photos of this garbage. I'm gonna do postcards of the photos, and I'm gonna deliver those postcards at their doorsteps. So that they are ashamed of what they do and they stop it. Meshi, okay. Time went by, a few days went by. We came back to work on something, and suddenly he handed me the postcards of the garbage. And he says, Joana, we have a big problem. I say, what is the problem, Mahmoud? These postcards are beautiful. If I hand them to the people, they will keep doing garbage and throwing it on the stairs. What do I do? How could you imagine a postcard of garbage would be beautiful? But it is. Yeah.
Composition. The sense of composition.
Absolutely. And that was Mahmoud. This is a real story. Huh?
Yes.
It's funny, but it's real. And he had this eye for beauty. He had an eye for beauty.
Aesthetic eye, of course.
Yeah, Apollinian.
But this is, the skill of going out of yourself to see what it's happening. And this is something the choreographers have, but the dancers sometimes they don't have, because they don't know about the space. But Reda, of course, what he took a lot of the Western ballet or whatever was this composition and this balance and this difference and this the deep and the right and the left and what you are painting in the scene. And this is very Reda. This is very Reda.
I am pretty sure we will have to maybe even do an episode only on Mahmoud, because there is so much to speak about, and there is so much to enjoy about what he left us. And
we miss him a lot. We miss him a lot.
Yeah. Don't say that, because I am going to.
No.
Every time I speak about him, I go into a nervous wreck, and it's not a good side. So, as I mentioned, it is such pleasure to receive you. And I had a huge list of questions. I still have it. It's in front of me because I wrote it down.
I'm sorry, I talked too much.
So it's wonderful, and it just means there is so much to share, and we will have to do this any other time soon and explore many other things that I had thought about for you. Now, I have one question about your work, and then we're going to close with our staple closure. Okay. So one question that I would like to launch at you is, what is the one thing that you would like to do in your work that you haven't done yet? Perhaps one thing that you even haven't affirmed publicly. Sometimes we have secret wishes, projects we keep in our head that we don't speak about, or maybe something that you have spoken about, but something that is still undone. One thing that really excites you and wants to grab you by the heart and makes you want to live another day to accomplish it. What would that be?
A lot of things to accomplish. Really a lot. For example, I would like to see a company with money. We know very, very well sustained, and I want to see my repertoire. No, I want to see it done, and me being out. Because of course I like to dance, but I want to see how it is really, how I imagine. I want to see much more beginners starting dancing. I want to see that. A lot of things, so those two. Mm-hmm.
Now, to close, these are questions that I always share with the guests, and I'm going to read so that I don't forget anything. We're going to do like a ping pong, quick question and answer, and then
okay.
then I'm going to ask you for a few recommendations. Okay, so the ping pong starts with your favorite word.
Music, musica.
Your favorite feeling?
Love.
Your favorite food?
Hummus.
It's good, right? I have hummus craving.
Yes.
Sometimes I need hummus. Yes. Your favorite place?
Naples.
One wish for yourself?
Be alive to see what you want.
One wish for the world?
Do music and do dancing. More music, more dancing.
One positive change that everyone can do to empower themselves?
We have to listen. Listen to the world. Listen to the other person. Listen to the sounds. Listen to what's happening. No, listen. We have to listen more.
Now I'm going to ask you for a few recommendations. One book everyone should read.
Wow. I have a lot. I also prepared it. I think now. So fun.
Midnight in Cairo. Midnight in Cairo by Raphael Cormack.
No, this is Italian. Is a researcher from Roma 3. The God that dances. And
Paolo, can you let me read it, the author so that our listeners?
No, is Paolo Pecere, il Dio che danza.
Paolo Pecere, il Dio che danza. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share these references in the description notes below the podcast episode.
Yes, and then, well, inside Arabic music, but this is for people that are interested in music, inside Arabic music. And then I can tell you. And this little book, Schutz, Fare musica insieme.
Schutz. Okay. Again, I am going to share these notes in the description notes below the episode. I'm also going to ask you for one movie you believe everyone should see.
Wow. I think about a classic like Tamr Henna. I think about a classic because of Naima Akef and the life of Naima Akef. I think that's something to see.
And last but not least, one word that uplifts your soul.
Future.
Beautiful. So much, Perla. You have such a beautiful name, by the way. I love Perla.
Grazie. Thank you very much. I was very I was looking for this conversation, and as you know, I admire you a lot. I love your dancing, and I love this all this thing that you're doing, your writing, and also this podcast, because it is important to have education and to share what we think and to share a lot of voices, different voices.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You are most welcome. As I told you, when I thought about this podcast, I thought about having people that I really like on an artistic level, on a personal level, people that I would like to sit with and have coffee with.
Yes.
Really.
Grazie.
That's you. And thank you so much for bringing your knowledge. You're very generous. It's obvious to me. You're very generous with what you know, what you love. You are a generous person. And I believe that comes forth in this podcast episode. I can only hope we will have another chances to discuss all the points that I had on my list that we did not have the time to discuss. I will invite everyone to check your work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share links to your social media and whatever is useful for them to find you in the description notes of the episode. And I'm also going to invite everyone to subscribe to the podcast, follow the podcast, subscribe to the newsletter of the podcast. We have very special perks offered in the newsletter. The links are also going to be found in the description below this episode. If you're watching on YouTube, we are recording audio and video for both platforms, Spotify and YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, you're going to find all this information about Perla's work and also about our podcast, newsletter, and other goodies in the description box. In the audio format, you're also going to find it below the episode. Make sure you check everything and enjoy it. Perla, grazie mille. Shukran.
Grazie, cara.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello to everyone. Keep dancing.
Yes. Thank you. And I hope to see you and to speak with you very soon. Okay. Mwah. A big kiss to you and to our listeners until our next episode with another fabulous guest. Love you guys. Mwah.
Ciao.